So this morning, to kick things off, we asked, well, actually, Adam volunteered to give a talk entitled Why OpenCHAMI Matters. And then he asked me to bring up two XKCD cartoons that he will use in lieu of slides. I am very excited for this. So without further ado, from Shell, Adam Hough.
I need to share them, I believe. There you go. Everybody should be able to see this now, I think. Do I need to make it larger? We'll get started. All right. You were definitely talking up this talk a little bit more. This came from a rant that I did when we were doing planning for this, because I ranted why is it important? But the first thing is I want to thank everybody for actually coming here. It means a lot. It helps get this out. I think this is important. And one of the reasons I think it's important is there are a lot of ways to boot a node, and not all of them are great. Some of them I really love, like XCAT, but development of that since IBM kind of dropped the product has been poor. It has started back recently, but it's also designed for systems that were deployed 20 years ago. And then it was open sourced a few years later. So it's one of those topics where, when you can go to ChatGPT or one of the, AIs and ask, how many of them are out there, you will get a handful of them that will be as a result. And they're missing 2 or 3 times that number that are just not there. And most places have dedicated, resources to build their own because they didn't like what was out there. Somebody was like, yeah, I can do this better. So they built their own. I'm going to call out Buffalo because I saw that Grendel was actually open sourced. And, I love the Buffalo guys. They make some really great software, but they wrote their own. Why? I mean, there are better ways of deploying nodes. You didn't have to write your own. But then, why do OpenCHAMI? Why have a 15th competing standard, basically, for node deployment? And I went to the BOF last year at SC. I asked some questions. I was like, hey, you don't have stateful? That is very useful in most environments that I've been in. I've been prior to, this is my 5th organization to work for, I think. I'd have to go back and count. I'm running out of hands on one finger, I think. I've seen a lot of ways of doing it. I've seen some good ways. I've seen some bad ways. So, yeah. Why another one? Why this? And part of that is I was talking with Alex after the BOF, and we were discussing, the questions that he was asking the systems engineers and the system admins and the operations staff, and going, all right, you're asking the right questions to the right people. There's an opportunity here for us to come together as a community to direct this at an early enough stage that we can actually get a good product that might actually displace those other 14 competing standards. I mean, it's one of those necessary foundational pieces of what we do on a day-to-day basis. You have to have an image on a node, and you have to have your network, and you have to have storage. And then everything else after that, you have to build up, and that can come later. That's like playing, like you got to have that baseboard on Legos, when you're putting all the places there so that you actually have a big, stable, Lego piece. Actually, I like this other one now for this. You have to have a nice, hopefully you don't have one of these random small products that's only a small team that you're depending on having to deploy and hope that it stays working. You know, at least with OpenCHAMI, it's being funded by the government and a nice consortium of people, and that consortium is growing, and now it's in the Linux Software Foundation. So there are multiple ways that I think this will not happen to OpenCHAMI. But OpenCHAMI is going to be down here, and we need to make it go higher. So that's why I think OpenCHAMI is important. I think this is why it matters. And I've been signed out of my account because it signed into another one. Can people online still see this?
Yep, we still see you.
Out of curiosity, because I wasn't looking at chat. Still says
Yeah,
I'm
we can-
sharing.
We can still see you.
Is somebody else in the? You're good. Okay. Where was I? Okay. One of the nice things that has everybody here today with a more diverse crowd is there are more diverse views. We can get additional feedback for this project, which is sorely needed because we need to actually say, hey, this is directions we need to go. This is why this matters. Let's do it this way. And the more voices we have, the more input Alex and his team have for going, all right, these are design decisions that we need to carry forward. This is where those gray lines get less gray. And we can actually get a good product that hopefully HPE uses, Dell uses, eventually people support. I asked one time from the Dell HPC global lead, I was having lunch with him one day and asked him why they did Bright for everything. He's like, well, it's a supported product. They didn't have anything else that was unique at that point in time. So that's why they were pushing Bright on every one of their clusters. They didn't have anything else that they could go to for support. This is an opportunity to build a deployment tool that they can support and HPE can support. And that means when we train up an engineer in one location, they can go to any other location. And it's a very common tool that everybody can use. So that's why it matters. And this is going to be a lot shorter than 30 minutes. So if we want to have a discussion, great. If not, we can have some coffee or we can jump into the tutorial. So I'll let people decide. Go ahead. Sure.
Russell Jones, Total Energies. Are there any plans you're aware of for commercial support for this product? 'Cause a lot of organizations want to also have a actual commercial vendor to, single throat to choke if you have an issue.
Um, I am not a vendor, but there is at least one vendor in the room, possibly two. Does anyone want to answer that? Or no, not yet. So, Russell was asking about commercial support, because if you want to buy a system that's fully integrated, you want to know that you're getting full support.
Yeah. So, and please, you can correct me, but I'm going to give the answer that we were headed toward, unless you'd rather go first. So we're developing system management products, but our goal is for our future system management products to be fully compatible with what OpenCHAMI is doing. That's a goal. It's going to depend on how things go here, but we have some I think reasonable expectations about our ability to stay in sync. HPE won't be supporting OpenCHAMI. HPE will be supporting its system management products, but its system management products At least parts of it, we expect to be derived from some of the work going on at OpenCHAMI. But that's the way to look at it. If a customer decides to run OpenCHAMI rather than an HPE system management product, HPE does not support it directly. We expect that support to come through other channels.
Well, I've only been at this for a month, but we haven't really had the services discussion, like whether we do have external services that can support things, but generally we partner with third-party people. So if there are other people that are planning on being like OpenCHAMI's professional support, that's probably more likely that we would partner with them to provide that, while we would then help provide what the special sauce that we do. That's generally how HPE works. So I would suspect there will be commercial support somehow, especially if we're putting it in bids and stuff. But it will probably be like we'll partner with somebody to do it. That's how we do.
Okay, Sadaf, I think.
Oh.
And I think, do we have anyone online that wants to like line up next?
I
Start by
don't know
saying
if you can
that,
hear us.
Larry kind of broke my heart saying HPE will never support OpenCHAMI. He's busy in saying whatever he's saying. So there are different models. No, I said you broke my heart saying that HPE will never support OpenCHAMI, and HPE was initially involved. You may not have said it, but that's what I heard. You know, listen. Yeah, but let's just So I will start with one very concrete example, then talk about commercial model, because there are so many commercial models around open source software and why I care. That is kind of one of those things. So look at Slurm. We can buy Slurm support from HPE when we buy a product. We can buy Slurm support from SCADMD or other things. So I think this will not be that much different, and entities will make those decisions, whether they have 10 systems on site or one system on site, bigger one, smaller one. I think the answer here is options and choices. And options and choices are really, really very important, both for the suppliers and as well as the consumers like ourselves. So in the UK, there are entities that are supporting other open source system provisioning solutions, and they would be happily doing it. I'm already kind of working with some of those, and they haven't said anything commercially, but if you saw, some of the slides we were presenting, yeah. So it may be very simple that we buy hardware from different vendors, but if you are deploying OpenCHAMI across multiple OEM suppliers, you may choose to have a site-wide support from one commercial entity. I think these models are, I think there are so many models or you can just do it on your own, because I think another big success about OpenCHAMI will be you do not have to be like a gigantic site with a lot of resources. So Bristol is very small. We started like a year ago, and we have, fewer people doing everything that probably some of the more established sites. So I think removing that barrier, you need to know a lot. Get started with supercomputing or AI. It's kind of, and why do I care? Because I would like to have a community-driven and governed standard. So when I go from one generation of platform to another generation, I do not have to throw a dice and see, now all my systems admins and other people need to be trained at something else. To me, this is really very fun. So why do you ask me, why do I care? Yeah, because I want a solution that is governed by the community. And I consider this community, there's some people represented here, but as we are talking, we have to go and grow that community. And that is important. So yeah, I think we should really maybe write down some of these things, why people who are in there care. Yeah, care.
Yeah.
And there will be all sorts of reasons. Another very important thing is, which is becoming quite important in terms of wording, I think some people call it autonomy, some people call it sovereignty. You are in control of what you own, what you choose, how you decide, how you configure. And if you do that, it goes back to the thing about options and choices. You are not beholden by a single supplier or a single solution or a single entity, we could really pretty much decide. So if I really, really boil down to these things, it should be very thin. I work on two things. This should be as thin as possible. The other layer I work is the federation, which is the thinnest possible, because if you put a lot of it, I think as someone said, that you need to have individual entities or companies or institutions express their engineering and architectural autonomy. So if you make OpenCHAMI very coarse, if I say it, and that is shown in the picture you showed, like the very as thin as possible it is the only way it can succeed. And then you can build like modular or composable topics, elements on top of it. So, and I think that discipline should be really important, because you can't do diversity across board if you have very coarse layer in the middle, and same from federation. Not because if you make it very vertically tightly integrated and have a very thick layer. So I will probably draw this picture, very thin layer OpenCHAMI on top, very top thin layer on federation, and everything is the creativity, ingenuity of individual team, and you don't have to have like an army of people to use OpenCHAMI. So we should maybe write it down. I'm just kind of blabbering on here. That's what I think why Bristol care or I care about this. And yeah, the final part is people and skills. When we started our team, we had zero idea if we can hire people from HPC background. So we started choosing technologies where you can get people working without any background, like interns. And that is also, OpenCHAMI is very attractive from a university perspective. You could do commercial training and courses and train up people very quickly. How we are going to use it at Bristol as part of, not like a proper curriculum, but as part of continuous learning, professional development thing. So there are so many reasons why I think we all care about OpenCHAMI. And I think hopefully we can build it in.
Thank you. I found out we may not have been able to hear some folks online. Mark posted something in the chat. Mark, do you want to see if you can speak now? I think I changed the audio device correctly.
Okay. Can you hear?
Nope.
Okay.
Sorry, Mike. We will have to figure out how to get remote participation in and give you some an opportunity to speak again on this. I did want to follow up on both what Mark is saying and the discussion in the room. I think the answer to will there be commercial support is who's willing to pay for it. I used to run a services company. If you had come to me and said, here's a huge bucket of money, I want you to support OpenCHAMI, I would have taken your money and I would have supported OpenCHAMI. And so the more of us that want that, the more likely it is that there will be an organization that wants to do that. Probably a third party, as Larry was saying, who wants to specialize in OpenCHAMI support. I think there's great examples of this across the Kubernetes ecosystem, great examples of this over other open source technologies. I think we all are familiar with SCED-MD, right? We wouldn't be running Sloan in most places if we didn't have SCED-MD contracts. But all of those are based on a company, or SCED-MD is an example, a company that controls the product, and they can then do product development around it. We are a community. And why OpenCHAMI matters and why it will matter for future commercial support is if our governance is strong, we're making good decisions, and our practitioners are able to get you more science for money because you're using the tool. Ultimately, that's what we do. Like HPC is science for money. It is not actually about DHCP. So that's my take on it, is that if there is a market for this, there will be players in that market.
So we're actually going through a project right now of doing OS deployment, re-architecting that. It was decided before, we figured out what we wanted to do before I went to the BOF at OpenCHAMI. It's very, very similar to what OpenCHAMI is doing. It was kind of like, hey, okay, validation of the design we'd worked up. But I'm also at the point of, if my provisioning tool is easy enough to use, I don't necessarily care if I'm paying for support as long as the project is not in need of that payment. So I would rather just donate directly to OpenCHAMI as, whoever I'm working for, and make sure that that payment happens than necessarily getting direct support. Because if I'm hitting something with a issue installing a node, I probably have other issues. That's a fairly basic thing.
Yeah, I'll follow on with that. And did you come up because you wanted to join us? No, come on up. Yeah. So at Lannel, one of the things that we decided, and part of the reason that we're investing in this, and we're investing a lot of people time, and we kept machines on the floor longer than we should have because we needed the resources, is that we think that yes, we want to be getting the best computers we can buy, and we want as much science for money as possible, but we also want people who understand self-integration. We want to be able to build what we have. We want to be able to train people and have them develop expertise on running supercomputers. So the next generation, all of those are giving us more science for money. And I think our operators are focused on that, and they're guiding us on how we develop something that will allow them to give us more science for money. So there's also a piece to this where your commercial support might be nice, but some local expertise is also very useful.
Yeah, and I didn't want to break anybody's heart, but I wanted to clarify. I mean, we just a bit. It's like, I mean, how we feel we invest in OpenCHAMI is that we are actively putting it into our roadmaps. It's actively a part of our plans going forward for system management, and we're actively developing it. We actually have some a team that is actively developing OpenCHAMI, and that's how we feel we're investing in it, because we don't want to limit the possibilities. We want other, I mean, exactly what you said. If there's a market for, it's unlikely for us as HP to find a market in like random person picks up OpenCHAMI and puts it on their 64 node cluster. We support that. But there are other companies where that is a booming business that they can do. And so we're both, the way we feel we're supporting OpenCHAMI is investing in getting it developed and getting it robust. And yeah, of course, putting it on, we make it part of things that we're building in our hardware platforms and stuff. So it'll have our own special sauce, and we will support that. I don't want to make it sound like we are not going to support that at all. If we build something and we put it in a contract, trust me, I have meeting after meeting, we will support that. But I mean, that's what we feel. We feel like, investing in making OpenCHAMI a viable community development effort and a community product, that's how we win with you guys. And that's our strategy and how we invest, not necessarily in just doing third-party support. So I wanted to clarify that, because I didn't want it to sound like we're not supporting OpenCHAMI at all. We are supporting it because we believe in it, and we really want to make it a part of our system management portfolio and our story. And that's what we're investing in it from a development standpoint.
Cool. Wow. Well, that was fun. We have other comments, questions in the room? So I heard Broadwing will support it.
We don't know what it looks like yet, but we'll support it. We'll get there.
Cool. Thanks for.
Yeah. We got it.
Is there anyone else who wants to try to say something online, or anyone else in the room before we end the questions phase? All right.
John went off mute.
Yeah, it can't be heard. Okay. We're gonna have to figure out what's going on with the sound up here. I think we've got some of it fixed, but not all of it. Do you want to try to type it, John, or here, let me try one more time to get the audio going.
How's that sound?
How about
Any
now?
luck there? Any luck there? Can you hear me now? Nothing.
Nope.
Oh, well, I'll just go with, I'll type it in.
I don't know where it would be muted. Oh, mute on. Let's see. Mute off. How about now?
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yay! We figured it out. There's a
I'm
button.
unmuted.
Mute.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of say the same thing. I mean, Dell does very similar with support contracts through third parties. We use like kind of as you mentioned, Alex, like third-party vendors who are willing to support those kind of packages. But as far as our plan of record right now is moving forward with OpenCHAMI support, supporting the project, and helping to continue to grow this community so that others can continue to say that too.
Thank you. And now that we figured out online, is there anyone else that wants to comment? Mark, do you want to, we can read what you wrote. We've got it up on the screen, but do you want to clarify it in any way?
No, I just have talked to a number of third-party support vendors that have been interested in it. I brought a few over to you during ISC, and yeah, I think people are interested in perhaps coming up with a support model, but they still kind of need to understand it.
Cool.
So I
All
had
right. Well, go
a
ahead.
quick follow-on to it for Dell HP. How much of the support, and I assume there's other areas you're doing something similar, is it actually like something's broken, you need to get in versus kind of interfaces to say, this is something we're trying to do, the tool isn't providing that, and how can we get an RFE into the actual development team?
Sure. Yeah, I understand.
No, it was a question, I think, for you.
Okay, I definitely misunderstood the question because I thought you were asking HPE a question. Can you clarify?
So-
I didn't.
I guess is a I found with our current provisioning tool, we're using Red Hat Satellite, and there's been a lot of times where it's just the tool doesn't do something we want to do. And so I feel like, opened as many RFE requests as we have this general, like, something's broken request. And so where I see having value is from this community's perspective, having someone that people are going to saying, like, this is what we're doing, this is like where we're running issues, and aggregating those things in to see, like, this is where we should focus development. And I'm just curious if my experience matches what Dell typically sees or HPE typically sees in this type of arrangement.
I think that is mostly a
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like the way that we work as a BU and HPC, I mean, we take on projects. We have funded projects that do feature development and stuff. So it's a matter of negotiation. Like we could do both. That we do break fix, we do software support, we also do feature development through things like NRE kind of support and stuff like that. So that is possible. We will either work with a customer directly to negotiate that, or we'll respond to RFPs as we've done with our lab partners in the past.
Yeah, and I think that's a great commercial model. I also think that starting out with why does this matter? Like, we can all fix this. We have access to all of it. We're going to do architecture discussions later today. Everyone's going to get a chance to run through the tutorial. We've got a hackathon tomorrow. And so, and these are going to continue. We're going to continue to have dev summits probably twice a year. We're going to continue to have active open source contributors across the ecosystem. And so when we find a bug, we may be able to, you may be in a position where you can say, oh, look, I just noticed that this case statement doesn't include my architecture. All I have to do is add one line, and now I can boot a whole new class of nodes. Not that that has happened today, but that's the thing we can fix like right away without needing to go through contract negotiations when it's an open source project and it's a pretty narrowly scoped bug. When we go for big stuff, yeah, we should get lots of consensus around that, but a narrowly scoped bug, we should be able to fix very quickly.
And as an open source project, like on GitHub and stuff, open issues, be a part of the community. If you have something that's broken, to put out to the community. I mean, that's part of the magic of having a community around it. It'll be better than just us supporting it. It'll be a whole community that can pick up an issue, and maybe like a student that really wants to learn about system management fixes that issue and it gets them along the lines, and then I get to hire them like 2 years later and make wonderful stuff. So yeah, that's the whole point of why we're doing what we're doing.
And yeah, I'll say as a end user with a contract support us typically through Slurm. We use Slurm in our environment, and we actually have a support contract with SCED-MD. And we have found tremendous value, not just in being able to open a ticket because something isn't working correctly, but also being able to get faster answers to questions that the community can answer. I could post it to the mailing list and would probably get a response at some point. But with a supported contract, I open up a SCED-MD. They usually have a reply in about 2 hours. And so it's there's value not just and the answers.
I mean, we can keep talking for a while. So John, have you gotten a notice? Is our other room ready? Okay, our other room is ready. We should probably wrap this up. But this is why it matters. We are building a community here. We are figuring out how the community is going to interact with vendors and third parties, and we're figuring out where do we want our roadmap to go. And so if we want a 2-hour response time SLA on a question from a third party vendor and there's someone willing to do it, let's get the contract started. All right. Anything else before we close?
I was just up, so
Okay. Thank you, Adam, for why it matters. All right. I'm going to stop sharing over here. And I think, Devin, you're going to take over in this room now, right?